The first thing my son said when he arrived at the lake house was, "You are going to love what we have planned." I was standing on the dock with a box of dishes in my arms. The house was finally ready for summer. The porch swing was still wrapped in plastic, and my husband Elias's notebooks were stacked beside the fireplace. David's wife, Lauren, opened a cream-colored folder. "The Brants are moving in," David said. "For how long?" 6 months, starting Friday." The folder contained a schedule, a moving estimate, storage arrangements, internet installation, furniture delivery, and a cleaning service. My name appeared under payment authorization. I put the dishes on the porch. "Where will I be?" I asked. David laughed as if I had asked something strange. "You can stay somewhere else for a while, Mom. It is only the summer." Lauren said I could use my apartment in town and visit whenever I wanted. I looked at the suitcase inside the front door. I had not come to visit. I had come to stay. "Did anyone ask me?" I said. David looked at Lauren. Lauren looked at the lake. That was the answer. The schedule listed the house as Brant Summer Residence. My name appeared only in the payment section. I closed the folder. "I need time to think," I said. "The movers are coming Friday," David replied. He was not asking for permission. He had already assumed my answer would be yes. My son had already decided that my answer was not part of the process. The lake house was not large. It had 2 bedrooms, a screened porch, a narrow kitchen, and a dock that needed repainting every few years. But it was mine. Elias and I had talked about owning a place near the water for most of our marriage. He kept a notebook of quiet towns and trails. One line was circled 3 times. "Spend one summer somewhere, nobody needs anything from us." We never got that summer. Elias died before retirement, and I returned to my job as a school secretary because routine felt safer than grief. For years, I helped David whenever he called. I picked up Sam from school, paid a plumbing bill, covered car insurance, brought groceries, and stayed overnight when Sam was sick. I never kept a list. Whenever David said, "Mom, I hate to ask," I eventually said, "It is all right." After Elias died, I sold our old house and bought land near the lake. I renovated the small property slowly. I replaced the roof, repaired the dock, painted the porch, and installed a handrail near the steps. I paid for everything from savings and retirement money. There was no secret fortune, only years of careful work. I planned to spend the summer there alone. I would take a kayaking class, read Elias's notebooks, and walk around the lake in the mornings. I had also signed a modest agreement with a local rehabilitation retreat for injured firefighters and their families. They would use the house for 4 selected weeks between July and September. The payment would help with the house expenses and my medical appointment in August. I had not told David yet. I wanted to tell him when everything was final. I wanted to say, "Look what this place can do." I wanted him to understand that the house was not just an empty building waiting for the family to need it. Instead, he arrived with a schedule that erased the entire summer. The day after the announcement, I opened the folder Lauren had left with me. It contained a moving estimate, a storage contract, an internet appointment, a cleaning service, and a furniture delivery for 2 beds, a dining table, and a sofa. Every document used my address. Several listed a payment card ending in 4 digits I recognized. I had given David access to that card years earlier, so he could pay medical bills for Elias. The authorization was limited to household and medical payments. It did not allow him to move his in-laws into my property. "Why are these bookings using my card?" I asked him. "Nothing has been charged permanently," he said. "That is not my question." He said the house was for the family, and that using my information made things easier. Lauren took the phone and accused me of focusing on paperwork instead of people. I reminded her that the house was not available simply because her parents needed somewhere to stay. That afternoon, I found beige bedding stacked in the guest room and a note asking me to clear my personal items. A furniture company had been told to deliver a new dining set. The room was not being prepared for guests. It was being cleared of me. Howard and Celia came to inspect the house. Howard measured the living room and asked about the dock. Celia said Lauren had told them I wanted the house used. I do, I said. Just not in the way you were told. I explained the retreat agreement. Celia looked embarrassed. Howard said David had made it sound settled. They left without eating the pie Celia had brought. Later, Sam called me. He had seen the moving schedule. Are you still going to the lake this summer? He asked. Yes. Good, he said, because it is your house. That was the first time anyone in my family had said it without adding a condition. That evening, I found the old authorization form. David had signed it with me after Elias died. It did not cover personal bookings for other people. I made copies of everything. Then I called the moving company and asked for the work order, payment details, cancellation terms, and authorized contact. I did not cancel yet. I wanted the complete record. The storage contract contained one line that made me stop. The furniture was listed as belonging to the Brandt family, but access had been authorized by Marion Cole. That sentence stayed with me long after they drove away. The next morning, I called the moving company. The booking used my address and Lauren's phone number. The deposit had been paid with my card. I placed the delivery on hold. I called the storage company and canceled the contract. I canceled the internet installation, the cleaning service, and the furniture delivery. Where a cancellation fee applied, I asked that it be billed to the person who made the booking. I did not shout. I simply stopped allowing other people to use my name as if it were a family resource. Lauren called within an hour. The internet appointment is gone, she said. Yes. You knew we needed it. I knew you wanted it. That is different. She said I was making the move impossible. I told her I was making them arrange the move they wanted using their own information. David came to my apartment that evening. He said Lauren's parents were already packed and that he thought I would say yes. You keep saying that, I told him, because it is true. No, it explains what you assumed. It does not make the assumption reasonable. He said the lake house was empty most of the year. I told him it was empty because I had been preparing it for myself. Then I told him about the retreat agreement. You signed something already? He asked. Yes. Why did you not tell me? Because I wanted one plan to belong to me before it became a family discussion. He said I was choosing strangers over family. I told him I was keeping a promise I had made before he made a demand. If this falls apart, I will never forget it, he said. Neither will I. The next day, I drove to the lake house and prepared for the moving truck. I placed the retreat agreement in a folder and printed the canceled booking confirmations. I made a list of every arrangement made in my name and printed a list of furnished rentals near the lake. I was not going to leave Howard and Celia without options, but I was not going to hand them my home to prove that I cared. I turned off the extra utilities Lauren had requested, removed the beige bedding, and folded the blue quilt I had bought before Elias died. Then I sat on the porch and waited. The moving truck arrived just after 9 on Friday morning. David's car followed. Lauren got out first. Howard and Celia remained in the car until they saw me standing on the steps. The driver showed me the work order. My address was printed at the top, Lauren's name was the contact, and the furniture was described as Brandt family household goods. This delivery is not authorized, I said. Lauren said the deposit had been paid, and that I could not cancel everything at the last minute. I can cancel arrangements made in my name. The driver called his office. After a short conversation, he confirmed that the delivery had been placed on hold by the account owner. Howard stepped out of the car. We did not know there was another agreement, he said. I handed him the retreat folder. He read the first page. Celia stood beside him. Lauren said the agreement was not relevant. It is relevant because you planned to occupy the house during every one of those weeks, I replied. David asked me not to do this in front of everyone. I told him the truck was there, because he had done it in front of everyone. Celia began to cry. She said she thought I had offered the house. I know, I said, but no one asked me. Howard asked whether I was saying no to the entire move. I said yes. I also told them I had a list of furnished rentals near the lake and would pay the cancellation fee caused by the confusion. I was offering help, not my home. David asked what I wanted from him. I told him I wanted the truck to leave, every booking made in my name removed from my accounts, and an apology to Nia and the retreat families whose plans he nearly disrupted. You want me to apologize to strangers? He asked. You made promises to them with my house. You can correct them with your voice. The moving truck pulled away. No furniture entered the house. No one moved into the guest rooms. David stayed behind looking at the water. You really plan to spend the whole summer here? He asked. Yes. He said he had not known I was serious. I told him that was because he had never asked. He admitted he had been afraid Lauren would be angry if he challenged her. I told him I understood being afraid of conflict, but fear did not excuse his decision to use my home. You did not give my house to your in-laws because you thought I would be kind, I said. You gave it away because you assumed my kindness was available before I spoke. He looked down. I am sorry, he said. The lake remained quiet. David stayed behind after Lauren and her parents left. He stood near the dock looking at the water. You really plan to spend the whole summer here? He asked. Yes. Alone? Sometimes alone, sometimes with the retreat families. He nodded slowly. I did not know you were serious. That is because you never asked. He looked at the house. You always made room for us. I chose to. I thought that was what family did. Family asks before taking. He was quiet for a while. Then he said, I was afraid Lauren would be angry if I told her no. I understand being afraid of conflict. She said your house was empty and that you would not mind. Did you believe her? I believed it would be easier if I did. That answer hurt more than I expected. I told him, You did not give my house to your in-laws because you thought I would be kind. You gave it away because you assumed my kindness was available before I spoke. He looked down. I am sorry, he said. It was not enough yet, but it was the first honest thing he had said since the announcement. That evening, Lauren posted a message in the family group chat. Marion canceled the entire move at the last minute and left my parents without a place to stay. Several relatives responded before I could close the app. One person wrote that older parents sometimes become difficult after retirement. Another said, family should not be treated like strangers. Someone else asked whether I really needed a whole lake house when my son had a family to support. I wanted to send the retreat agreement. I wanted to send the booking records. I wanted to show everyone that the move had never been approved. Nia called before I could respond. Please do not share the retreat family's information, she said. I will not. You do not need to prove the purpose of the house to people who have already decided you are selfish. That sentence helped. I wrote one message in the family group chat. The lake house was not available for a 6-month family move. Several arrangements were made in my name without my approval. The house is already committed for selected summer weeks. I will not discuss private details about the program. The matter is closed. Then I left the group. David came to my apartment that night. He looked exhausted. Lauren says you are trying to control everyone, he said. I am controlling what happens to my house. She says the retreat was a way to punish us. It was signed before your plan. Why did you keep it from me? Because I wanted one thing to remain mine until it was finished. He sat at the kitchen table. I knew you were considering something, he said. I looked at him. What did you know? That Nia had visited. I knew there might be a program during the summer. Then you knew the house might not be available. I thought it was still flexible. You thought my plans were flexible because I have always been the person who changes them. He did not disagree. I told him about the years I had moved work shifts, canceled appointments, and changed travel plans whenever he needed something. I told him I did not regret helping him. But helping him had never meant that my time belonged to him. He said he understood. I asked him to show me. The next morning, David called the retreat office and apologized. Naya told me later that he sounded embarrassed. He admitted that he had assumed the property was available and that he had made arrangements without speaking to me. Lauren did not apologize. Howard and Celia did. Celia called me privately. She said Lauren had told them I was no longer comfortable staying at the lake house and wanted them to use it while she lived in town. She said she had believed the house was being offered, not taken. I told her I understood how the confusion happened, but the result was still wrong. She asked whether I would help them find a rental. I already have a list, I said. Will you send it? Yes. Why? Because I can help you find a place without giving you mine. She was quiet. That is fair, she said. The Brants found a furnished cottage 12 minutes from the lake. It was smaller than my house, but it had 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a porch. Howard paid the deposit himself. Celia sent me a check for the cancellation fee from the furniture company. Lauren remained angry. David told me she believed I had turned the family against her. I had done no such thing. I had simply stopped entering conversations where the only acceptable answer was yes. The first retreat group arrived in July. A firefighter named Aaron came with his wife and their daughter. He moved slowly because of an injury to his leg. They spent most of the first evening sitting on the porch. Nia showed them where the dishes were kept and how to use the old coffee machine. I had left a basket of groceries in the kitchen. Aaron looked at the lake and said, I have not slept beside water since I was a child. I told him I hoped the house would give him a quiet week. He thanked me. I did not tell him about the moving truck or the family group chat. The house did not need to carry that story into the summer. I took my kayaking class during the week between retreat groups. On the first day, I tipped the kayak over before leaving the dock. I came up laughing, with lake water in my hair and one shoe missing. For the first time in years, nobody called me to solve a problem while I was in the water. I read Elias's notebooks on the screened porch. Some pages contained only names and street addresses. Others had notes about places we never visited. One line said, maybe next summer. I touched the words and realized that next summer had finally arrived. It was simply much later than we expected. David visited in September with Sam. He called before coming. He asked whether the weekend was free. He asked whether the retreat group had left. He asked whether it was all right to bring food into the house. The first time he asked, I almost laughed. Come on Saturday, I said. He brought a small wooden sign for the dock. It read, Coal Lake House in plain black letters. Can I hang this? He asked. On the left post, I said. He hung it carefully. Sam went swimming. David repaired a loose board near the dock. When he needed a tool, he asked before opening the shed. That evening, he sat with me on the porch. Lauren is still angry, he said. I know. She says you are trying to make her feel small. I am not responsible for the size of her feelings. He smiled a little. You really have changed. No, I said. I am still willing to help. I just ask myself whether the help was requested. He looked across the water. I used your old authorization form, he said. I knew it was for medical bills, but I thought you would not care. You should have cared before I had to. I know. He said he had believed my plans were flexible because I always made room for him. He said he did not understand that I was not waiting for the family to tell me what retirement should look like. I told him that flexibility without respect becomes disappearance. He repeated the sentence quietly. Flexibility without respect becomes disappearance. I did not know whether he would remember it. I knew I would. A few weeks later, Celia visited the lake house. She called Nia first and asked whether it was all right. She brought a cake and left it in the kitchen. She did not ask to stay. She did not measure the rooms. She did not discuss repainting the guest bedroom. Before she left, she said, "I thought your son had solved our problem. I did not realize he had created another one for you." I told her that adults are responsible for asking direct questions. She nodded. "I am learning that." Lauren did not receive a dramatic punishment. She did not lose a business or suffer some public humiliation. She remained angry for a long time, and I accepted that. Some people call a boundary cruel because they can no longer benefit from its absence. David and I began rebuilding our relationship in small pieces. He paid back the money charged to my card. He canceled the old authorization. He helped me set up a separate account for the lake house expenses. He did not ask for a key. I did not offer one. Trust was not going to be restored by a conversation on the dock. It would be rebuilt by what he did the next time my answer was no. One afternoon, I received a letter from him. He could have sent a message, but he chose paper. He wrote that he had confused family support with family ownership. He said he had treated my house as empty because it was not serving him. He admitted that he had made plans with something that was not his to give. He did not ask whether he would inherit the house. He did not ask me to promise anything. He asked whether he could remain my son without being entitled to my property. I read the letter twice. Then I wrote back. I told him that he could remain my son. He could visit the lake house when invited. He could ask for help, and I could say yes or no. He could disagree with my decisions without turning disagreement into a family emergency. I told him trust would not be rebuilt through promises. It would be rebuilt through behavior. He accepted that answer. The next summer, I spent 6 weeks at the lake house. I did not rent it out during all of that time. I took the kayaking class again and stayed upright. I planted herbs near the kitchen window. I bought a yellow chair for the porch because Elias had once said every quiet place needed one bright thing. I still helped the retreat when the schedule allowed. The house became connected to something useful, but it never stopped being mine. Sometimes people ask why I did not simply let the Brants stay. They say I had extra rooms. They say family should be generous. They say 6 months is not forever. They are right about one thing. 6 months is not forever. But a person can lose a great deal in 6 months. She can lose the first summer she planned for herself. She can lose the feeling that her own calendar belongs to her. She can lose the courage to make another plan because she has learned that someone else may simply move into it. I did not refuse to help my family. I refused to disappear from my own life. The lake house was never empty. It held Elias's notebooks, my unfinished plans, the work I had done to restore it, and the promise I had made to myself. It held the retreat families who needed a quiet place. It held Sam's laughter and the sound of David repairing the dock. It held me. That was the part my son had forgotten. For years, I believed being a good mother meant moving myself to the edge of every room. If David needed the calendar, I moved my appointment. If Lauren needed childcare, I changed my plans. If someone needed money, I opened my wallet. I told myself love was measured by how much inconvenience I could absorb without complaining. I was wrong. Love can include generosity, but it cannot require one person to become invisible. A favor can remain a favor without becoming a permanent claim. A family can share a place without assigning it to whoever speaks first. And a mother can love her son without giving him the authority to plan her life. A week after David visited with Sam, Lauren called me while I was watering the herbs near the kitchen window. She did not ask how I was. She asked whether I had told David that he could use the lake house whenever he wanted. I told him he could visit when invited, I said. That is not the same thing. No, it is more honest. She said David had been distant and that he blamed her for the failed move. I told her I was not asking him to blame anyone. I was asking him to take responsibility for his own decision. You made my parents feel unwelcome, she said. They were given a home they did not have permission to use. I helped them find another one. You could have let them stay for a few months. I could have. I chose not to. There was a long silence. Then she said, You have always wanted control. I looked at the lake through the window. I wanted one summer that belonged to me. You treated that as control because you wanted to take it." She hung up. I did not feel triumphant. I felt tired. But the tiredness was different from the exhaustion I had known before. It did not come from trying to make another person understand. It came from finally accepting that some people understand your boundary perfectly and object to it anyway. That evening, David sent me a copy of the form canceling his access to my old payment account. He also sent a list of every booking he had made and confirmation that each company had removed my card information. The list was not an apology, but it was a beginning. He wrote, "I should have asked before making any plan with your house. I know that now." I answered, "Thank you for correcting what you can. The rest will take time." He did not argue. He did not ask me to say more. A few days later, Nia called to tell me the next retreat family had arrived safely. She said the wife of one of the firefighters had asked whether the lake house belonged to a large organization. Nia told her it belonged to a retired school secretary who wanted the place used well. I smiled when she told me. The final retreat group left in September. I walked through the house after they drove away and checked every room. The blue quilt was folded on the guest bed. The dishes were stacked in the cabinet. The porch was clean. I stood at the front door with my keys in my hand. For a moment, I thought about giving David a spare key. Then I placed the key back in my pocket. Not yet. Maybe one day. Maybe not. The decision would be mine when I was ready. I walked down to the dock and watched the sunlight move across the water. The wooden sign David had made was still fixed to the post. Coal Lake House. I smiled when I saw it. The name did not bother me. It was a family name, and family was welcome there when family remembered how to ask. My son had given my lake house to his in-laws because he assumed my answer would always be yes. I canceled every booking they made in my name because for once, I allowed my answer to arrive before their plans did. The house was never empty. I was simply the only person who had forgotten that my plans counted too.